Hi, welcome. This is Marty Metz, having a conversation with eSentio with Andy Ward out of our UK office. Although he's going to fool you, he doesn't sound like he's from there, but that's where he lives. He also lives in Spain and he handles the US. He's our global director of IG. And in that role, this year, it's been more interesting than ever, I think, as we look back at the conversations we have with CIOs. They all know information governance is really important, yet many firms struggle with it, getting a lawyer's attention on it. And, the IG world has kind of been stagnated until now. And why now? What is going on now that makes the big difference? It's probably going to be, you're going to probably answer Gen AI has really started the ball rolling, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell me what's going on in the IG space.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. You're right. The biggest catalyst for change in the last 18 months has certainly been um, I don't want to call it commoditization because we're not there with the tech, but from a day-to-day usage, AI is center place. And I think ultimately it's been a real enabler for information governance conversations and evolution. For someone that does IG all day, I would say it hasn't necessarily been stagnant before then, but I would say it had always been approached from a risk perspective first. And, that is its role historically to think about retention policies and destruction and managing client data effectively and defensively. But with AI coming to the center stage, there's more opportunities for firms, and I would say a necessity for firms to understand the technology and leverage it to coalesce with their greater firm strategy. So this year, our eSentio Information Governance Survey, for instance, we got far more respondents far more quickly than in the past. And I'd say, that catalyst with AI is certainly at the center. And it's not like it's all optimism with AI. It's not all how do we take this and how do we keep clients and get more clients for the firms. There are more risks than ever, data risks, and ultimately thinking about the garbage in, garbage out mentality of AI, as well as the cyber risk for AI. So it's really been good for IG as a whole to take a lot of the historic goals and processes that we've had and bring them up a couple levels within firms. It's certainly well past, IG is records and really IG is, it's almost to the board level. Not quite, but I think in the next, 16 to 18 months, there'll be firms that you see bringing out even executive level positions in IG.
That's amazing, really, when you think about it. And, the whole realm of what kind of leaders are going to be in tomorrow's law firms, this spells to one of those things that's going to be changing. I also thought it was funny as we talked to our potential clients and friends throughout this conference. I think you had the dance card for the most 30-minute coffees with IG directors of anybody in our team. And I think it's probably a testament to everything you've just been saying. But when you have those coffees, what is the major concern that the clients are talking about?
Yeah, it's been a quick show. It's gone really fast in all the good ways. And there's been a lot of great content. There's been a big focus on matter mobility this year. The concept of clients and matters moving around firms, for a variety of reasons. And it really like that specific challenge and opportunity speaks to the core of IG. You need to know where your data is. You need to make good decisions about it, and you need to be able to take action on it in order to address matter mobility. So I like the fact that a lot of the conversations I've had one-on-one after these sessions has been focused on that kind of tactical question, because they're stopping to ask the questions, should we have a better matter mobility workflow and policy structure? And the answer, of course, is yes, but then it bleeds into some of the same IG topics that creating an AI program would require as well. So there's, I like to say IG is a meeting of the stakeholders and the meeting of the data, and those specific topics like matter mobility being hot this year has been probably one of the more interesting conversation paths with folks.
Do you think when the IG community at large is kind of looking at all of this as a tipping point for them, and that they're going to start getting the budgets, the attention, the products. And are there products out there right now that are really kind of, really targeted at the IG world that haven't been there before?
Yeah, I'd say we still, if you ask 100 firms how they manage IG, you're still going to get 100 answers, but there's more patterns than there used to be. And again, I'll mention our survey for 2025, which closes next week. We did a little preview session this week with some firms, and ultimately, there's a lot of trends towards managing data more holistically, like master data management. Those types of trends are helping us make better decisions, but the lack of kind of beginning to end information governance software platforms out there is evident. There are more players this year than there were in the past. It used to be that you'd have one platform to manage your records, maybe multiple platforms to manage your records, and then you'd have other platforms to manage compliance. But ultimately, I see the next year to 2 years as being the big technical evolution for IG specifically. Right now, the majority of evolution that I see in the majority of investment is existing systems like DMSs or Microsoft, the data in their tenant, and them making it easier to maintain and comply and govern the data that lives in those ecosystems. Of course, you have other AI platforms like the CoCounsels, the Harveys, the Lagoras of the world that are taking more legal specific approaches. But what's really missing is AI-driven IG tech. And I think there's a reason for that, because IG means different things to different firms. So you're going to see continued investment. I dare say there was no darling of the ball this year in terms of pure IG tech, but there's a lot going on. So stay tuned.
I think every IG director out there would say the magic bullet that if it was ever made would be able to handle our outside counsel guidelines. And so that's still an evolving area. I know there are some products, but does that come up quite a bit still?
It does. And I still like Intap's platform terms. At the same time, there's new technology coming out all of the time. Ultimately, outside counsel guidelines, if we get away from the tech for a minute, outside counsel guideline evolution is a massive topic for us right now, primarily because clients are requesting more guidelines specific around AI itself. And I could talk for a while about this topic, but ultimately, as firms progress their strategies and develop their processes and procedures for enhancing their guidelines workflows for AI as well as other topics, the biggest challenge that we see firms facing is bridging internal strategy. For instance, around AI, there'll be strategies around risk mitigation. There'll be strategies around business and how do you monetize and productize and make a channel out of AI for some firms. For other firms, it's how do we invest in this as a cost, but then turn around and provide better legal services. So there's that strategy. But then there's the how do you work with clients, both from an outside counsel guideline perspective, but also how do you help corporate America and corporate world as a lawyer, as a practitioner, do more with AI? So I see firms across the board from being completely reactive and having completely separate internal and external strategies, and other firms where that's tightly married. Usually it's outside counsel guideline evolution. As we look at that, when we're doing assessments and working closely with firms, there's a direct correlation between how robust are their outside counsel guidelines for AI versus not.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, there's a real concern in the community that while we're rushing to make really incredible product, really making some efficient use of the technology to simplify creating documents or finding information, the corporate world is asking law firms to do these things, and they're expecting that kind of benefit to flow back into them in a form of lower bills.
Yep.
And so there's huge investments that law firms are making, and yet none of them have really felt to this point, there might be some examples where they are, but they're not making money yet from AI. And in fact, they're holding on while they try to figure this out. Somebody said the only people making money from AI right now are the vendors. When do you see, is there an IG component of how we get to a point where, they can monetize and actually create some profitability out of doing better legal work with the advent of generative AI?
Yeah, and I think it bleeds a little bit back into outside counsel guidelines as being a kind of a bellwether for how well, firms are communicating with their clients on Gen AI. But I kind of divide the approach into two buckets, really. There's the lawyers doing what lawyers do best, and that's providing legal services. And there's a huge opportunity to assist corporate and government clients with their strategy on AI, as I mentioned before. But when it comes into actually taking the technology and bringing it into the practice, and looking to A, lower costs, or B, unlock new revenue potential through new offerings, I think both of those are truly required. And the information governance involvement on that, other than outside counsel guidelines, would be at the data level. Ultimately, there's many reasons to have a better read for your data. We're in a fully cloud-enabled world now. Obviously, every firm doesn't have every app in the cloud yet, but the vast majority, will probably be 75 to 90% cloud in the next couple of years. There's a cost. There's an incremental cost to that data. So there's a cost and ROI driver for governing your data better. But there's also the risk side, and that the new flavor of risk being data input risk for AI is really the big change, right? Like, no one wants to be making legal or business decisions or representing a client faithfully and to the best of your abilities with data that's misleading, right? And I think that's ultimately what governance hangs its hat on in this conversation.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating. Really good look at the world of IG now and where it's going. And I really appreciate your time. And I wish you a safe flight back to the UK.
Yeah, thanks so much. See you next year.